Finally, the narrator comes in here and tells me about how wise he is. Oh, so he is wise. Chapter 5, he starts building the temple. Oh, and there it is again. Looky there. Chapter 5, verse 12. So the Lord gave Solomon wisdom as he promised him, and there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a treaty. You can't do, right? One of the things. No war, no treaties, no riches. King Solomon conscripted forced labor. You know what that means? Slaves. Conscripted forced labor out of, Israel. The levy numbered 30,000 men. Oh, that's funny. Let me see. The last time that Israel was enslaved in order to build something was, oh, that's right, Egypt. Yeah, the first chapter of Egypt. Sort of makes you wonder what wisdom means, doesn't it? He knows how to get things done. Just like the serpent, remember, a long time ago? The serpent was more subtle, more wise, more insightful than any other beast of the field. It doesn't mean that's necessarily a good thing. Solomon builds the temple in chapter 6. 7, how are we doing? Builds his own house, he built the Forest of Lebanon, dedication of the temple, it goes on and on and on. Chapter 9, chapter 10, chapter 11. Here at the end of his life. This is a constant theme in the Bible as a whole, and as I get older, I'm more and more scared about it. Is that whenever characters get old, they just get rotten. I mean, it's true. As if they're not rotten all the way through, but it just becomes really clear. And so, the older I get, I hope I retire early, because otherwise Perkins is sunk. Chapter 11. King Solomon loved many foreign women along with the daughter of Pharaoh. Oh yeah, I can remember the treaty and everything way back there in several chapters before. That's not just the only one. In fact, all the way through, he's actually been doing all of this stuff that the narrator hasn't been actually telling you about. But no, I think we might as well, right, bring it all out. Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, Hittite women from the nations concerning which the Lord had said to the Israelites, don't enter into marriage with them, neither they with you, because they will surely incline your heart to follow their gods. Solomon clung to those. He loved them. Because love is always good, right? Clung to those in love. Among his wives were 700. My Lord, don't multiply wives for yourself. I was expecting like 5 or 6, right? 700 princesses, 300 concubines. His wives turned away his heart. And when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart wasn't true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. Because Solomon followed Astarte, the goddess of the Sidonians, Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Solomon did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not completely follow the Lord as his father David had done. And then Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and for Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites. These are two what are called chthonic deities, that is underworld deities, Chemosh and Molech of Moab and the Ammonites. And the worship of these, we're going to see this, I don't know if we'll actually read it in class, but you can read it in Kings. The worship of these always involve, what do I want to say, burning children. You make children go through fire. So you take, again, you don't kill it first. You just immolate it. You just throw it into the fire, and that's sort of what the worship of these deities are. It's a horrible, horrible thing. Solomon built a high place, and so when you read about Chemosh or you read about Molech, this is like the Holocaust. I mean, it has a heavily negative connotation to it. He did the same for all of his foreign wives who offered incense and sacrifice to their gods. And then the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel. And why had his heart turned away? I can tell you the reason why his heart had turned away. Because not only did he have wisdom, but he also had riches, and he had honor. Nobody ever stood up to him. The Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning this matter that he should not follow other gods. But he didn't observe what the Lord commanded. Again, sounds exactly like Deuteronomy. You can hear the dead horses being thumped, right? Thump, thump, thump. Therefore the Lord said to Solomon, since this has been in your mind, and you haven't kept my covenant and my statutes that I commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you and give it to your servant. You can't do that. Eternal, forever, forever, forever. You can't forsake. Oh, and yet for the sake of your father David, I'm not going to do it in your lifetime. I'm going to tear it out of the hand of your son. I'm not, however, going to tear away the entire kingdom. I'm going to give you one little tiny little tribe of Judah for your son, for the sake of my servant David, for the sake of Jerusalem, which I've chosen. And in fact, the tribe that's left, Judah, I don't know if you've been to Israel. There's not much there. I mean, Jerusalem's nice. It's a nice town. It's a nice city. But it's pretty deserty. Again, it's north. Go north, it's like Las Vegas. South, it's like
Desert.
Sulphur Springs. I mean, the north is like Dallas, but it's like Diboll. If you go, anybody from Diboll? Actually, I always used to use Diboll as an example of a backwater place until somebody spoke up in class who was from Diboll. So anyway, cool. So God's going to tear the whole thing away, except for one tiny little tribe, Judah, and give that to Solomon's son. Starting in 11:14 immediately. All that peace. It's kind of interesting, right? Because his name means peace. Shlomo, right? Solomon. Immediately, by the end of his life, there is no more peace. Adversaries start rising against him. So in 11, the second half of 11, we're introduced to the character of Jeroboam. Jeroboam is the sort of the head, the overseer of the slaves, Israelite slaves that are there. And he doesn't like his job very well, as well he shouldn't. And so chapter 12, Solomon dies, Solomon's son Rehoboam comes to the throne. Chapter 12, and this is the last thing we'll read. Yeah, it's the last thing we'll read. Rehoboam sent to Shechem, because all Israel had come to Shechem to make him king, so it's the coronation. When Jeroboam the son of Nebat heard it, right, Jeroboam is the head of the forced labor. When Jeroboam the son of Nebat heard it, because he was still in Egypt where he had fled from King Solomon, when Jeroboam returned from Egypt, and then they sent and they called him, and Jeroboam and all the assembly of Israel came and said to Rehoboam, your father, that is Solomon, made our yoke heavy, because it's slaves, right? Now therefore, lighten the hard service of your father and his heavy yoke that he placed on us, and we will serve you. Right? Just don't oppress us. We're perfectly happy to work with you, just don't make it hard. And he said to them, go away for 3 days and then come again to me. So the people went away. And King Rehoboam took counsel with the older men who had attended his father Solomon while he was still alive, and had seen how Solomon did things, and I assume seen how Solomon sort of fared. Older men who had attended his father Solomon while he was still alive, saying, how do you advise me to answer this people, these slaves? And they answered him, if you will be a servant to this people today and serve them, and speak good words to them when you answer them, then they will be your servants forever. That's some great advice. As an old man, I can tell you, that's some great advice. But he disregarded the advice that the older men gave him and consulted with the frat boys who had grown up. I'm sorry, not the frat boys. I'm sorry, Jermaine, I didn't mean that. He consulted with the young men who had grown up with him and now attentive. And he said to them, what do you advise that we lighten, that we answer this people who have said to me, lighten the yoke that your father put upon us? And the young man who had grown up with him said to him, "This is what you should say to the people who spoke to you. Your father made our yoke. Your father made our yoke heavy, but you have to lighten it for us. This is what you say to them. My little finger is thicker than my father's loins." And I think you know what that means. Right? You think my father was a man? My little finger's bigger than his loins. You don't get this stuff in the New Testament. This is good stuff. You don't. So anyway, my little finger is thicker than my father's loins. Now, whereas my father laid on you a heavy yoke, I'm going to add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips. I'm going to discipline you with scorpions. Right? And so Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the third day, and the king said, come again on the third day. And the king answered the people harshly. He disregarded the advice that the older men had given him. He spoke to them according to the advice of the young men. My father made your yoke heavy, but I'm going to add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips. I'm going to discipline you with scorpions. So the king didn't listen to the people because it was a turn of affairs brought about by the Lord that he might fulfill his word that the Lord had spoken by Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam, which prophesied that Jeroboam was in fact going to be the king of those nations or those tribes that were taken away. And when all Israel saw that the king wouldn't listen to them, the people answered the king, "Fine, see ya. What share do we have in David?" Right? He was from Judah, he was from backwater. "What share do we have in David? We have no inheritance with the son of David. To your tents, O Israel, look to your own house, O David." And so Israel went away to their tents, and Rehoboam reigned over the Israelites who were living in the towns of Judah. And when King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was the taskmaster over the forced labor, all Israel stoned him to death. So I don't guess he's going to try to get them back anytime soon. King Rehoboam then hurriedly mounted his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. And so Israel has been in rebellion against the house of David to this day. Jeroboam takes the northern kingdom of Israel, becomes a separate kingdom now. Rehoboam is over the south, Jeroboam is over the north. Jeroboam, in the latter part of the chapter, Jeroboam's going to be very afraid that everybody up here, because when you come to the land, you find the place that you worship, so far so good, and that place is now in Jerusalem, and it can't be moved because it's a building now, right? So Jeroboam's afraid that everybody up here, when they come around to worship, everybody's going to be going back to Jerusalem to worship. So what he does is that he sets up two alternate shrines in Dan, in the north, and in Bethel, in the south. And I don't know, let's put, I don't know, golden calves in it, right, in those places in Dan and in Bethel, so that they can worship there. And, you know, all those types of festivals and everything they have in Jerusalem. I don't know, let's make some new stuff, right, change, right, let's change things up. And, you know, there's like all those priests down in Jerusalem. Let's just make priests of, like, people that we like. And from that point on, there will never be another king over the northern kingdom of Israel that will receive a positive evaluation from the narrator. From that point on, even though Jeroboam was appointed to take the northern tribes, it's always an evil. And eventually, in the middle of 2 Kings, it'll come to roost, and the northern kingdom will be destroyed. And the narrator, we'll see it next time, the narrator is going to be very explicit that the reason why the northern kingdom is destroyed is precisely because of those shrines. So, anyway, that's all I have. Thank you so much. We actually made it through where I wanted to get. Oh, just one thing, and again, I forgot to print out the outline of Kings. I'll bring it next time. The way Kings is organized, though, is that we have Kings 1 through 16, which are stories about the kings, which is really good because the book is named. Yeah, exactly, beautiful. That story is picked up, so 16, 1 Kings 16, it's picked up, and again, these are just rough numbers, but it's picked up in 2 Kings 14, so much so that if you took out all of this middle stuff, they could fit together pretty well. But what's happened is that somebody along the time, has taken those stories of those kings, split them open, and put in 1 Kings 17 all the way through 2 Kings 13. And what these are stories about Elijah and Elisha. And if you want to know about Elijah and Elisha, there's a book coming out next year. It's going to be really good and really expensive. And I will require it for class. No. Anyway, so anyway, that's sort of how the book as a whole is organized. So you have books of kings or stories of kings, you have the Elijah-Elisha narrative that's been quite bluntly inserted into the text, and then you have stories of kings at the end. Cool, awesome, that's all I have. Thank you. And again, I'll bring that up.